Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Next Level Real Talk Podcast, where we have conversations on the journey of personal transformation and the pursuit of lasting peace and happiness with Sheldon and David. Hey, and welcome to another episode of Next Level Real Talk Podcast with Sheldon and David and our special guest we have sitting here. A couple of cool things. Number one, if you hear a little funky on the, we've got an in studio. It's the first time we've got Mason, the other person here, sitting right across from me. We had a lot of work to do with the setup. So, and full disclosure, Mason's my son-in-law. So I have a guest who I am very close to. Love like a son because he is. So welcome, Mason.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's really, really great to be here. Watched the podcast, so it's an honor to be the first in-person guest you've had.
Yeah, it's cool. And we usually just throw you under the bus and throw you right in and say, hey, you know what? If you have, tell us a little bit about your story, your journey. I mean, you've heard the podcast. Generally, people are just talking about shit they've been through
your
and
life, your experience. Yep.
Yeah. And how you deal with it.
Well, I feel like anybody certainly been through a lot. But just a little background about myself. I grew up on the East Coast and, kind of a good life growing up, but obviously had some really high highs and some really low lows. But how I ended up out in California, kind of it all goes back to, I think, how everything started. I am the youngest son of three, and I grew up. My mother passed away very young, when I was very young. So I was only about 5 or 6, whereas my oldest brother was, I think, 13. So, obviously it's going to impact everybody differently, right? I don't really remember her that much.
I was going to ask if he even remembered her very much.
Yeah. There's little things, little memories I have. But, when we moved from New Jersey to Virginia, like almost immediately after, because my father, I think, just needed to kind of get a fresh start, and his sister lived down in Virginia, and she said, just bring the boys down here and figure everything out. So for me, it was kind of like, I just grew up in Virginia, I was like the immediate aftermath. Like I still, it's crazy, talk about the memories. I remember the night she put me to bed. And then I remember waking up the following morning to this chaos, and she had died. I remember that very vividly. But we moved to Virginia. I'm just growing up as a young kid, so certainly didn't process that.
Sure,
as a 6-year-old or young child.
Yeah.
Did your dad? What did he say about it?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was one of those things that it's not that we didn't talk about it, but it was, I think, a lot of pain that it wasn't something he really wanted to constantly bring up,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was sudden.
It was very sudden. Yeah. It was, a kind of a constant theme in my life was, like drugs and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was not a happy time then, but moving to Virginia, like I said, my dad was kind of like, let's get a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
And he always worked his butt off, man. Like he was driving like 2-hour commute each way into DC to provide for us, and yeah. So anyway, I didn't process that as much as a young child. My father ended up remarrying, and I was the youngest, and I really hit it off with her, his new wife, because it's like I all of a sudden had a mom. My older brothers had a lot of butting of heads, especially, yeah, not so much my oldest brother. My middle brother and her really didn't get along a lot. But there's a lot of turmoil there as well. Her and my father had like I had a good life, but there was, again, very high highs, very low lows.
Yeah.
A lot of crazy times for sure. But so when I went through high school, everything was good. When I was in college, I think what I would say is like the biggest turning point in my life, kind of like the fork in the road. So I'd been dating a girl through high school, and in my second year of college, she actually she transferred to go to the same college as me, and we were living together. And it's crazy to just talk about it and think about it. But again, one night she was not really feeling well, and everybody was going out. I think it was like a Halloween thing or something. She was like, "Let's just get Taco Bell. We'll just watch some movies." Middle of the night, she's got terrible pain. She's crying. I'm like, "All right, well, we gotta go to the hospital because I don't know what's going on." And then within 24 hours, she was she had passed.
No way!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I
And
think
you guys were living together.
Yes,
and been together for 2 years at that point. So
we've been together for about 4 years.
4 years. Oh.
Yeah, because it was my junior year in high school we started dating.
Okay.
But yeah, she contracted meningitis somehow.
Wow.
And they didn't know what was wrong with her. I remember being in the emergency room, and they were like, they didn't know what it was,
Yeah.
but by the time they figured it out, it was too late. I remember I was there with her mother. Her mother had come up, and she was starting to kind of feel better, She said something she was like, "I don't even remember coming to the hospital. I don't even remember why. I don't remember coming to the emergency room."
The mom saying?
No, Chelsea.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was this moment where, like, she was kind of like, she was sleeping, but she was like not. It seemed like something was wrong. And like we went and got the attending nurse out there, and she came in. She's like, "Oh no, it's fine. She just needs to just let her rest. Let her rest." I don't know. Maybe 30 minutes later, the head of the emergency room, they were doing the rounds, and a couple different doctors, and they were like freaking out. They're like, "How long has she been like this?" We're like, "I don't know, 30, 40 minutes." And it was just like, that was it.
Wow.
They snapped into action, took her over there. It was like, that was the end. But, I think obviously that's going to impact anybody pretty strongly. I think what happened, looking back on it, is I then was dealing with all of the previous trauma of my mom passing that I never actually dealt with.
Right.
Yep.
Again, like that happened all at once.
It triggered everything. It rewoke all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, that really shattered me. I was not in a good way for what ended up being several years, even though like after a few months, it's like, all right, you kind of got to go back to school. You got to finish up the semester, and which is really hard to do, to go back to that same place we were living together with her stuff everywhere. And yeah, I was
How old
dealing
are you
with
at
it.
this time?
19, 20.
Yeah. Way.
You graduated high school young then.
Graduated when I was 18. So
18.
my birthday in December.
You were like 21-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I go back to school, and I have this, it's weird, it's like, I can look back now with hindsight and say, like, it's silly that I thought this, but it was like, I didn't want to be a charity case. Everybody's kind of seeing you. They're like, "Oh, like, hey, how's it going?" And it's like,
I got this. Don't worry about it.
Good.
Yeah.
More than that.
Yeah.
But it's such a big thing.
Yeah. So you kind of bottle up all those emotions and all the wanting support and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't want people to look at me like a sad dog, like, oh, this poor thing. And then I again probably should have like gone and spoken to somebody,
Sure.
got some kind of help, but like many, I just kind of said to hell with it.
Yep.
I'm just gonna do whatever I want.
Hey, man, you're your dad's son too. I'm not blaming. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The pattern is set. There's a
Right.
pattern there, right?
Yeah.
And it's more like that's the truth, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I was finding myself asking why a lot,
mhm.
and I just wanted to alter my state, I, at that point in college, still going to class, still doing all that, but I just started experimenting with a lot of like hallucinogenics, trying to like alter my mental state, figure out something deeper, I guess was the idea. And I think I had some good experiences, but obviously not the best way to deal with what you're going through. There were
I
some,
think those things are really good when they're in conjunction with some kind of process,
right?
Hallucinogenics and altering the state. If you're doing that as part of a path, they can be really effective. But if you're just doing it out of the blue, hoping it to wipe everything out,
And to get
probably
away, and just to get away.
Yeah, it's just another escape mechanism at that point, I guess.
Yeah. And it was pretty obvious too when I'm with a group of people, and then Mason's over there on the floor like bawling his eyes out. It's like, this isn't a lot of fun for everybody else, but
that would happen on a trip.
Yes, yeah, a couple times.
Yeah.
Because it's like all that stuff coming out,
Yeah.
But yeah, I was kind of heading down a path, and I was hanging with some people that I probably shouldn't have been, and doing things that I don't think were like extremely destructive, but like, I was in college, I was there to get an education, and I had kind of put that on the back burner, still going to class, but like I didn't really care.
Yeah.
And some people I knew kind of got into some trouble, and I don't know, I had this kind of revelation that like this is like again a fork in the road moment, and it's like, why am I letting something that happened that was out of my control dictate who I am and what my life's going to be? And it was like a really, I don't know, this clarity moment where I stopped all that, and I started going. I mean, I really hit the books. I had a 4.0 for a couple semesters. I was working. Everybody else is like, partying after class.
Yeah.
And, I was literally working like 6 days a week, and it was good. I think that was really good for me too. But yeah, okay. So now I feel like I'm on the right track, right? I find geology, which is the degree I had gotten.
And this was West Virginia University.
Yes,
right.
WVU. And so originally I'd gone to school to get some kind of a business major, trying to, my dad had a lot of success, and I was thinking like do something like that. But as I was going through this sort of transformation, I had this kind of like, I don't want to be a suit kind of a and I took a geology class as an elective, and it was the teacher that really, everybody has that one teacher, a couple teachers or people you meet, and he was like, I know this is an elective for a lot of you. He's like, but we're going to read 10 like books in this semester.
Wow.
He's like, if you don't want to read the books, get the hell out. He's like, I'm telling you right now, if you don't read the books, you're going to fail. There's no reason you should fail an elective. Leave. Like one person got up and left. He's like, all right, final warning. Like anybody, he's like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. He's this old kooky guy, And I think he even said like, get the hell out or something. And I was like, I think I would have left. I would have been one of those people that left, but for some reason I was like, I like this guy. I don't know.
It's like, this guy's straightforward. I can deal with this.
Yeah. And he became like a bit of a mentor for me. And
cool. You never know.
Yeah.
You're talking to a teacher here, you know.
Yeah.
Spent his life trying to be that dude for people. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He really helped me. I took both of his classes. He taught these 2 electives and then graduate level courses for some reason, you know. But I took the 2 lower level classes and I got the best grade in the class both times. He tells everybody at the end of the semester because he gives you an 11th book.
Oh,
He's like, this one's for you to read outside of class. So I get my degree in geology. I feel like I have this path.
and what is the path for a geologist?
yeah.
I wanted to be out in the field. I wanted to be out in nature and like doing some like studies and stuff. And we had this capstone class. In order to get your degree, you had to go out to Yellowstone. We were in Montana, South Dakota. It was like a summer-long course, and it was great. I was like, I'm never going to get to go do that stuff.
Yeah.
And doing geology, actually. And so when I get my degree, I finally graduate, I'm looking for jobs. And now I know, kind of knew then too, but like really you need a master's degree to do anything like really interesting, at least right out of college.
Yep.
And I had been through so much. I was like, I just don't want to be in school anymore. I was like, I need a break. Maybe I'll come back.
Yep.
And so I started looking for jobs. The job I got was what they call mud logger. And as I was working on shale fracking sites in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio area. And essentially you are sifting through as they drill through the layers, they're pumping everything out of the borehole. You have to go collect it, clean it, look at it under a microscope, and tell the driller whether what you're seeing in the actual sample corresponds to what they believe they're in, right? As you go through the stratigraphic.
And is an indicator that there's something there worth continuing to drill for?
It's just
or you already know that?
They already knew that. Yeah. It was just kind of like if they think they're in this layer, it should look like this, right? And so if it's supposed to be like they're going through a like more coarse layer, you just want to make sure. Most of the time, it's like you're right on track. They know what they're doing. The drillers.
You're kind of telling them like, yeah, you're on where you're supposed to be. Obviously, drills might change. Hey, you're getting to this thick part. You may want to change your. Oh yeah, this stuff that they need to. Oh,
right.
Like a support group.
What's funny is you're the lowest guy on the totem pole, right? I was working 12-hour shifts by myself, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. for really remote locations. And another part of the job is as they drill, the pressure gets released, right? And there's ambient gas. That's not the gas they're drilling for, but there's ambient gas that fills the borehole. So if they drill too quickly, you can catch, and that the borehole will catch on fire. So oftentimes when you see like fires, I forget what they call fire spouts or something, but it's like all that ambient gas catches on fire and it's just burning off. So they can't drill too fast. The drillers, however, get compensated based on how much they drill. So they want to go as fast as possible.
So they're pushing the limit all the time.
Yeah, that's kind of defeats the whole. They're fighting each other on that one. Okay.
And now imagine you're a guy who's been drilling for 20 years, and then some snot-nosed kid
tells you to slow down.
I think you guys need to slow down. They're literally like, hand to God. I put radio. I'm like, hey, looks like you're going fast. The ambient levels are creeping. Shut the fuck up. Okay.
Okay. My job. I did my job.
Well, to catch us on fire, I know I'm getting fired, right? It's my job. But so I'm doing that for, I don't know, 6 to 9 months or so. And it's awful, you know. Like you're in the middle of nowhere, staying in crappy little hotels. You're pretty much waking up, working, going to bed. I'm thinking, well, you know, I'm young. It's a good way for me to save money. You know. So I, you know, when they took the job, they told me you're going to work 2 weeks, 14 days on, and then you're going to have a week off. You're going to get all this overtime because you're working so many hours straight. And like I said, I'm young. I'm thinking, great, I can save money. Can't spend it. And I never, ever once worked 2 weeks on, 1 week off. Never once. It was lots of like 3 weeks at a time, 4 weeks at a time. Sometimes it would be like 4 days. It varied a lot. But I was in the flow. I was getting the hang of it. I was liking it in some regard. I certainly liked the paychecks. And then I had worked, I think it was like 24 days straight. It was good. It was a good site though. It was an Exxon site. It was very, very well run. It was, a lot of respect for everybody on the site. But anyway, so long. And I go home. They're like, "Thank you so much. We're gonna give you a nice big break. You've earned it." And literally, it was the day before St. Patrick's Day. And so I go back. I'm still living in Morgantown, so it's still a college town. And so I go out with all this money. I'm like, having a good time. Yeah. And literally that night, I got a call like, "Hey, so and so, something's going on with their kid. Like, we really need someone to fill in. It's really close. It'll only be a couple days till they get that sorted out. Then they'll be back." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, send it. What the hell?" Right. And the next morning I wake up, I look at the details. It's not very close. It's literally in, it was like up near Scranton, Pennsylvania. So it was like an 8-hour drive or something from where I was. And they're like, "Oh, you're in West Virginia. It's in Pennsylvania. It's close." Not close at all. So I'm already pissed about that. And then I go out to my car. I'm still going to do it. I go out to my car and I have a boot on my car in my driveway. Like the back tail end of my car was kind of like a little bit in the side, but people park like that all the time. Granted, I did have some parking tickets, but I thought it was a little extreme to get a boot in my driveway. And that was kind of like a breaking point where I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I was like, this sucks. And I was just fed up. And from that point, I was back to this, like, what am I going to do point, I was kind of floundering around. I did have money saved up. But I was living in a college town. I wasn't in college. I remember there was this real, like, kind of low point, I guess. But, I'm like still going out. There's a couple friends I have who are still there. But when I realized, like, I need to leave, I'm too old for this town. I had been like talking to this girl, dating, whatever, or trying to. And then the one time she called me, I'm like, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" She's like, she asked me to buy her beer. And I was like,
oh boy.
I was like, I gotta go. I was like, I gotta get out of here. I was like, this is bad. I kind of realized, like, what am I doing here? What am I doing in my life? So I went back to where I grew up, and I was staying with my brother. Listless, just not really doing anything. One thing I did do, which I think really helped me, was I really started working out a lot with my older brother every morning, working out. And that was like something, right? Something that I actually
pumps out endorphins and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's like known to be good for depression, right?
Yeah. Now there's this funny like meme I've seen where it's like, bad thoughts, go lift heavy object. Like sad thoughts, go lift heavy object. Happy, go lift heavy object. Just like made me feel a lot better. Both, I didn't have a lot going on, but it made me feel better about myself. And still really didn't know what I was doing. I knew I didn't want to be there. There was this moment where my aunt, who helped raise us, she has a restaurant everybody's worked at. She's done so much for us. And she was like, "Why don't you come work at the restaurant?" And I remember I told her, I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm not going to do that because I love you and I appreciate it, but like I've seen how it like distorts everybody's relationships because it turns you're working. It's like, well, when we're at work, and then the work stuff carries over to Thanksgiving dinners, and it's like I'm not getting involved in that." And she was a little upset about that, but I think it was a good decision because I may have stayed there. And anyway, my best friend, who was my best man when I got married, he calls me one day out of the blue and is like, "Hey, I'm driving to San Diego. I'm moving to California." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm leaving next week. So, we should hang out or something." And before that, my dad had been like, he saw what was going on with me. He was like, you got to do something. You got to get out of here. I was spending a good amount of time with him, which was nice. And he had proposed something to me. He said, I have a friend who wants me to come out to California. She's got all this stuff, all this merchandise. She doesn't really know what it is. She needs to catalog. She wants to make a website to sell it. It's part of her business. She had kind of this wholesaler was going out of business, and she was the number one account. Was like, hey, we'll give you all this stuff at cost. We just have to get rid of it. So she said, okay, but she had like 3 storage units full of stuff. And he was like, why don't you come out with me? And I'm like, I'm not going out to California on your harebrained schemes. Like, no, And
other part of the country, holy moly.
Yeah. He was like, you need to get out of your hometown. He was like, it's good. There's good people there. It's a good life, but he's like, you got to get out of here. Anyway, so like a couple weeks later, my friend calls me. And so then I called my dad. I'm like, is that thing still going on? He said, yeah, it's a couple weeks from now. I said, well, I'm going to go to San Diego and I'll take a train up to San Francisco and I'll meet you there. And I can't believe I did it still looking back, because I was not the type of person to just, pick up everything and go.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
but
was a big moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, and I've thanked my brother for this, that I think if the working out and stuff kind of gave me the confidence to just say, why not, and I knew that like, it was only supposed to be temporary anyway. I was like, I'm going to go out there, meet my dad, do this job, spend the summer there and come back, make some money. And literally within like a couple hours of being in San Diego, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm coming back. I was like, I think I'm going to stay here. The plan, it was so funny because I'm working out a lot. Right. I'm working out a lot. I'm in really good shape, but like, you're in Virginia over the winter. So it's like, I'm not on the beach, and I had this grizzled beard. I hadn't cut my hair in forever. So the first thing I did was I like went to the nice barber shop. I said, I need just do around. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, I actually look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, man, we're going to the beach, going down to the boardwalk. There for a couple of weeks and came up to San Francisco to work with my dad. The whole plan was going back to San Diego once this is over. And that changed. That changed when I met Sarah, which was, my dad loves this story. So I feel like I have to tell it. We've been working in these storage units for hours all day, just sweaty and gross, disgusting. And he's like, come on, let's go get a drink somewhere. I'm like, Dad, I just want to go take a shower, get some dinner. He's like, well, come on, just, let's go get a drink. I'm like, I don't even know where we are, Dad. Like, we've been here for like a week. He's like, oh, well, whatever. And he's starting to get frustrated. He's like, pull the car over. I don't care where you go. Just, I want to get a drink. And so I'm like, fine. I made this like really dangerous U-turn because I'm pissed off and, parked on the side of the road. Fine, we're going here. He's like, great. Thanks. We go in. It's this tiny little dive bar. There's like 2 or 3 like old heads there. But there's this beautiful girl behind the bar who's much younger than the patrons. And my dad just kind of like turns to me and goes like, not so bad, is it? He's like, why don't you go buy us a drink? Yeah. And that was how I met who now is my wife. And I just kept going back. Cool. Yeah, kept going back. And eventually I had to call my friend in San Diego and say, I'm not coming back to San Diego.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah. But I feel like I had to go through your own, like, I don't know. My dad always said this to us as kids. He's like, I can tell you everything that you should do. He's like, I've lived a wild life. I've had great times. I've had bad times. He's been very wealthy and very broke multiple times. He's never been afraid to like take a chance and try something new. Mm-hmm. He's like, I can tell you everything. He's like, but it doesn't matter. You're not going to do it. He's like, you got to make your own mistakes and you got to go through your own stuff. And it's funny as a as a kid, your dad tells you all these like stories and tells you all these like, gives you all these kind of like speeches and lectures. And, at the time you're just like, oh gosh, this is the same thing we've heard over and over. But then when I tell him what it means to me now, he's like, I thought you guys were, it's just one of the things I was telling you. I didn't know it really like, he's like, that's why I tried to tell you so much. So it like really got ingrained in you.
You had no idea it actually ingrained at all.
Right.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. And being out in California with my dad was actually a great thing too, because I was the youngest. We actually got as close as we've ever been in my life when we were out here. He was like, you were always good. You were like the good kid and you always had good grades and you just, you were kind of quiet and I never had to worry about you. He's like, your older brothers were kind of, the oldest brother, like I said, he was, I think 13 when mom passed. And then he was like, we're moving to a different state and it's in the middle of nowhere. And it's very different from what you know. And, I think he had a bit of a rebellious side that came out because of that. And then
that's junior high, freshman year of high school, maybe 8th grade, something like that. So
yeah,
kind of a pivotal time to be like uprooting. You have no friends anymore.
Yeah.
Your whole, when you're that age, it's all about your clan, your friends, right?
Yeah.
So he gets plucked. And you're also older. So, I mean, obviously the loss of your mom would affect everybody profoundly. You can't not be profoundly impacted by something like that. But at his age, I mean, did they have to go through? I'm sure they all went through their own path of dealing with that and healing it or not healing it or whatever they're doing with it.
Yeah.
And a big thing, Mason, you were talking about how you were growing up, you're the youngest, and I don't want to say left behind by your dad, but he had to deal with the problem children. So you're like, okay, he's good. I'll let him go. He's fine. I'm not going to worry about him. But that's kind of like the relationship you didn't get to grow because I don't know the whole story, but it's kind of like you're just, okay, he's going to be fine. I got to take care of these other ones and deal with them. So they got the relationship per se. And you kind of got I'm just the other kid hanging around because I'm good. So it's kind of, but that you finally got something out of that down the road.
Yeah. And it's interesting is like, I never felt that way growing up. I never felt like no one cares about me or I'm like the kid that gets no attention. Like I said, I had a very lovely childhood, awesome. Like there was ups and downs, but like for the whole, I know it's better than a lot of people. But when we were out here together, I got to hear from him about it, and he had, I guess some regrets or whatever, and he felt that way. And so it was good that we got to really connect on a bigger, more than just like as you get older, your parents become friends, right? And in certain ways, and it was something that we hadn't, I guess, had to experience at that point. So I think it was good for both of us. I think he needed to get out of town too for a while, and it actually it's so crazy. Our lives have both from that moment have just gotten exponentially better. Like he met his wife, and now he's married, and they have a lovely house together, and we have this bond that kind of started when we both took the plunge and came out to California.
That's awesome.
Wow. So California has a pivotal place in both of your guys' life in this interesting way, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I mentioned he worked a lot. And I think that maybe caused a bit of the rift between him and my stepmother is that, he provided a wonderful life, but he was, part of his job was having to travel constantly. And he was in California for a week of every month for like 15 years. Outside of that, he was also traveling internationally. He's filled up multiple passports with everywhere he's gone. He provided the life we had, which was great. I think that caused, like I said, the division a little bit. But I wouldn't have been able to, the fact that he wasn't around, he felt bad about. But then if he hadn't done the job he did, we wouldn't have had the opportunity that we had to come to California because the person that we were helping, he knew because of all the time he had been in California for work. So it's this like, I don't know.
You never know what how those downstream connections, the things that you're doing now, how they can turn out down the road, right?
Right. It's do believe in some sort of, call it whatever you will, fate. I think there's like something's guiding us all, and it's kind of like, you got to just, you may not see it at the moment.
Hmm.
Like I said, all the stuff I went through as a young person in college, I think as terrible as it is, and it impacted so many people, Chelsea passing. I feel like, I hate to say that it's like, obviously, I mean, it's terrible that she passed, but
Yeah.
I think it ended up being something I needed to go through. If
Hmm.
that hadn't happened to me, then maybe something happens later in life that is something I can't like course correct from, or something like that. So, obviously a tragedy, but certainly some good came out of it, I think,
Mhm.
in some minute kind of way,
Mhm.
you know.
And you
Yeah.
never know any situation in life, like what you're talking about, that one incident, that you had, you weren't sure how that was going to affect your life. When I graduated college, wound up working at Red Lobster as a assistant manager, and the boss, the general manager, she took me aside and says, "You're a great, great, great employee. I'd love to have you stay forever. This isn't the job for you." She outright told me that in a great way, and I was like, "What?" She's like, "No, you're more outgoing. You got to find a job where you can work with people and deal with this," because I wasn't allowed to talk to the employees or talk to them, but I mean, hang out after work at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Well, who am I hang out with? All my friends are asleep. And so she's like, "No, this is kind of indirectly guided me to where I needed to be." Not even me knowing. I'm like, God, this kind of sucks, but I'm glad she was nice to me. So I stopped that job and went on and wound up, you know, down the road, eventually becoming a teacher, going like, oh, this is the kind of job that she was talking about. So you never know. You never know who you're going to run into, how they're going to impact you, and your teacher. I was thinking, I wrote some book down about your teacher. You went into this elective class not knowing anything, and that's the person that actually changed your life, at
Yeah.
that one point, in career wise, and you just got to embrace some things. You go like, why am I here? Embrace it, enjoy the moment. Go, as we've talked the last couple of times. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Let's just write it out and say, hey, this is kind of fun for a while, and see where it goes. So that's one big lesson. So I'm glad you got that
Yeah.
indirectly, that you just learned to go with the flow. So.
Yeah. I think I need to go back to that. It's like coming out to California was a total whim, took a big chance, packed everything I had in a duffel bag and went for it. And then deciding to stay, even once I decided I was going to stay, it was like, all right, now I have to find a job. I was staying on someone's couch. It was like, I need to get off the couch. There was a period of time where I was like, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. But you kept going. And I think now that it's, I've gotten married, have a wonderful life.
Sarah kept you motivated to
Exactly. Yes. And I know she really loved me because when she met me, I was, I had nothing. So
Yeah.
she still wanted to see me. Um, but I'm kind of comfortable now, right? It's like I've been at the same job for almost 10 years, and it's not, I don't feel like excited about it. I don't feel like there's like a um, joy there. And it's certainly not like, oh my God, am I going to lose my job? Like, I don't feel like that.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's not ideal. Like, I feel like you should always have a bit of a spark. And obviously, I don't think I could do anything, but it just feels like I'm very comfortable,
A little stagnant right now.
a little stagnant. And I feel like I need to kind of go back to that spirit I had of, um, like, like you said, Dave, just go do something different. And you got to, I guess the thing that I kept coming back to is like dare to fail, like
Mhm.
Mhm.
got to put yourself out there.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
don't, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. You got to try. You got to give it a try, because you never know unless you try. I mean,
Right.
my
It's
whole
like,
life has been that way. So it's like the things
And
I've come into. So.
regarding your comment earlier about, obviously it's a tragedy that Chelsea died the way she, especially the way she did and at the age she did, right? But I always think that when you have that hindsight, and usually the hindsight is after you've healed it, then you can see the silver lining.
right.
It's like when you're
Hmm.
not healed, you don't see it. it's only until you've processed what that thing was for you, how it moved you. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, oh,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have, you know, I probably never went to California. I probably wouldn't have done this, or I wouldn't have done that. There's a lot of things in your life that never would have happened had you not done that. And that puts you here where you are now, right? And it's like, and it's until you are in that place now and happy and feeling fulfilled and feeling healed in a way, right? Like, I mean, obviously it's still a
Yeah.
painful memory. It's still tragic. It's
Sure.
still all of those things. But at the same time, it's just like once you've healed that thing, all of a sudden you start to see, wow, I see how this whole thing works, kind of in a mystical way, if you will, a metaphysical way, a
Yeah.
spiritual way. You have this lens of saying, oh, that's why, and people
And
that
and I don't want to interrupt you, Sheldon, but
go ahead.
to go in the total opposite direction, he could have sat there and said, "Wow, Chelsea passed. We were going here, 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 here. What could have happened? What could I have been?" You know.
Mm,
But here now, obviously, we're many years, forward. You can look at that. Yes, it's sad that she's passed away. None of us wanted that, but that helped you to find a direction.
mhm.
And yes, it's sad you went through the sadness, but you took that direction and said, "Okay, here's where I'm going," and jumped on some things on board of a train. Going, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going. I'm hopping on this train, taking a ride. Here we go. And that's kind of a great thing instead of just saying, "Hey, I'm just going to stay here and try and figure out my life in one little world." But it's cool because I mean, I would still go, God, what would life have been if this didn't happen? But then again, this is what happened when it
So
happened. So
did your relationship with Sarah trigger any of the stuff with Chelsea?
I don't. There's nothing I can think of immediately that jumps to
Yeah,
mind about it.
yeah.
It was, I did have a relationship after Chelsea
Mhm,
passed with someone
mhm,
else, but that was like way too soon. And I still, like, again, I don't think I dealt with
mhm.
Chelsea passing at that point, so that was kind of a rift there. I think I was finally open and ready to,
Yeah.
I was being very genuine. I think for probably the first time ever. I think that
mhm,
was one of the beautiful things about coming to California is like didn't have any baggage. Like I had, everything that you carry with you, but like it wasn't like I had to pretend to be something else or someone else. It
Yeah.
was like
mm,
I'm who I am. Like I can just be totally open and honest and genuine. And I told I remember telling Sarah about that pretty early on, and she was like, "Oh my god!" Like you know,
mhm,
like it had been so long at that point, but still, it's such a big thing, that
Sure.
happens in someone's
Sure.
life that she felt emotional about it herself.
mhm,
And she was like, "I can't imagine. Like, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was like, it's like a decade ago at this point." Um,
It makes me want to cry just hearing it and thinking about it right
yeah,
now. Like it's
yeah,
intense, that thought.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I, when I was not dealing with it, right, and I was partying too much, and I had that kind of clarity moment. Something I thought of is,
What did you do
just
to deal with it though? Was there a process that you actually went through, or do you feel like just getting up and moving, working out was part of it, right? Helped you
yeah,
feel better. Um, and moving location helped you feel better, right? And obviously set you on the path that brought you to here, right? To Sarah and everything, which is beautiful. Um, but was there anything else? You didn't see anybody. You didn't talk to
no,
anybody. So
no. I think I don't know. I think I saw people around me that I was in these circles, and like I said, I think I was going to concerts a lot. I was partying,
mm,
drinking, doing drugs and stuff. And I remember one morning we were out on the road because we were like following a band, going city to city. And one morning I just woke up kind of early, and I'm in this hotel room. There's a bunch of these people who are like my friends, quote unquote, right? And I just remember thinking, like, all these people suck. I was like, these people suck. Like, they're not really my friends. And like, you
yeah,
find that when
mhm,
like something really happens and like no
yeah,
one wants to help,
yep,
no one
yep,
cares, right?
yep.
And yeah, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like,
Yeah,
I just like,
mm,
I still like the music, like that part of it. And like, I had good experiences with people and they weren't all terrible, but it was just this moment where I was like, and I was like, I think I helped pay for this hotel, and like, why am I sleeping on the couch? And it's like, who are these? Like, some couple people I didn't even know, and yeah, it's like I just don't want to do this. I don't want to be this person anymore, and I don't.
They're basically friends because they're the word friends. They aren't
in the
friends.
Navy. Using nautical expression, we used to call it fair weather friends. What I mean? When the party's good, shit's going down, and everything's fun. You can have a lot of people hanging around easy, right? But when shit hits the fan and things are going downhill, and you really need somebody to fucking, in all hours of the night, in all circumstances, who's going to get up and be there for you? That kind of thing. And those are very different. Those are very different lists.
Mason said when he was crying that one time, it's like they're all like, "This guy's a bummer. We don't want him around." Those aren't friends.
Yeah,
those are friends because you're partying, but now like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
get out of here, dude. We're partying, dude. We don't want you around.
Yeah,
that's a fair weather friend.
Yeah. I felt like
that's cool. You realize that it's a hard realization sometimes, but it's good that just that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I had this thought where it's like, defining moments in your life, right? Everybody has multiple of them, but like the thing that I thought was like, it's defining. Don't let what happened be what defines you, right? Be how you respond to that. Be what defines you. Because if you're like, well, this happened, woe is me. Now I'm just gonna be a bump on a log and not be productive and just wallow in that, to where like your whole personality and everything about you becomes like this bad thing that happened to me, through my whole life off course. That's why I am the way I am. Be like the positive response, learn from it. And it took me a while, I'm sure there's still some stuff in there I can probably work out, but I think it just was, a lot of reflection. I mean, I was sad a lot, man. I cried a lot. I think I probably didn't deal with it the best way, but I definitely dealt with it internally,
I think sitting with things, feeling the things, and allowing those emotions to come up is extremely healing. You know what I mean? You don't have to. I don't think that you have to mentally talk about something, let's say. You know what I mean? And talk with either a therapist or anybody necessarily, but you do have to go through the process of feeling. That's just my whole kind of metaphysical, spiritual thing on healing, right? You do have to feel it. You have to allow yourself to feel that shit. And then and crying is the release of that, right? You have to allow yourself to feel it, and then it comes up and through. And sometimes for people, talking about stuff and thinking about it actually reactivates it and hooks it in another way, where sometimes not talking about it and being pure about it, but as long as you're really staying open to it and allowing that thing to flow through you, is actually more healing faster, I think. But everyone's different about how they process it, right?
And everyone's different. Some people will cry when someone passes away. Someone's like, "Wow, I'm bummed." Maybe I have a tear here and there, but be sad and process differently. So it's okay no matter which way you process.
Yes. And some people need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Or they can't process it without talking, right?
And be open to others that are processing how they are processing it. They'll say, "Well, I'm going through this," and your friends, your fair-weathered friends, are going like, "God, what's he doing processing that way?" They didn't understand you were going through some. Well, maybe help them, but that's not. So hopefully we can do that part. That'll be down the road. I'll talk about that in a bit, but yeah.
And California has this way about it, right? So you're saying, hey, I feel like I can be me in California. I remember I had a very similar thing when, I'm in the Navy, blah, blah, blah. I drive across country and I get out of my car in San Francisco, and I had this visceral experience of the hairs on the back of my neck going down for the very first time. And part of that was probably a racial thing, but I felt comfortable in this weird way, partially because there were so many freaks walking all over San Francisco. And I'm not even joking. Like, I mean, literally, right? You could see like 20 million tattoos and pierced everywhere and whatever, and wearing the most bizarre clothing. And I'm like, wow, I could literally wear whatever the fuck I want here, and no one's even going to look. No one's going to bat an eye. No one cares. And I found that liberating. There was a sense of liberation to that. Well, explore what I want to wear. Like literally, I was just like, huh, what do I want to wear? I never really thought about it because I was always wondering what everybody else wear. You know what I mean? And it was very preppy, kind of like, Izodi 80s, button
Mhm.
down, whatever, top cider kind of thing.
And you're
And plus
always the preppy. You always
you
dress
know,
preppy too, by the
right?
way.
You remember that, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just to
So
say, it went right back.
it was kind of weird. I was just like, whoa, I don't have to do that. What do I want to do? I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah.
So
I feel like, well, I grew up in a pretty small town, and that went to school, and when I came back, and I was like staying with my brother, it was everybody knows everybody's stuff, and it's like you could when I moved out here, I could just like no one knew who I was. You just walk down the street, and it's not like, oh, that's my so and so's brother, and his brother and my cousin got in a fight back in high school, so now we don't like him, so we're gonna go talk shit to that person, and it's just like, and sometimes you go back like, oh, how's your brother doing? It's like I don't even know who you are. It's like you know who I am, and I don't even know who you are.
yeah.
And
So
and
I got to ask you a question, Mason.
Sure.
Way back, okay, because this is part of my seeing how my trajectory and yours, your brother, basically. So your stepmom. I'm going way back to your stepmom. So your middle brother didn't get along with your stepmother at all, and just thought, yeah, rah, rah. And that's how I was with my brother and I were with my stepmom. So how is their relationship? How did it stay that way, tainted, or did it ever work out? Just a quick
yeah,
answer. Just kinda-
no.
no.
So my
Okay.
my father and her ended up divorcing.
Okay.
Right around when Chelsea passed away. So that had been
Oh,
going on, and then that happened. I remember, like, that's another thing. It's like I think the last time I saw my stepmom was shortly after Chelsea passed, but her and my dad had already split up.
But you were
And
okay.
close to her.
Okay. Yeah, he
yes,
was
but
closer than the others, yeah.
I was closer.
Mhm. But there's never
Yeah, I
that
don't
real
know.
connection of
No.
okay.
There was. I mean, that's the thing I think about now as an older
Mhm.
young man who can look back on these things, and it's like, she and my dad, like I said, tumultuous, right? I
Mhm.
think she definitely had an alcohol problem, but then I
Mhm.
also know that she was alone a lot of the time. I look back and, like, my dad's traveling. She's,
Yeah.
hey, raise the kids. I'm going to go make the money. And I
Yeah.
think there was a resentment there. And then, it was kind of like we're three young boys. My oldest brother's probably out of the house by then. We're just like upstairs on our computers or doing our own thing. She's just like down in
Yeah.
her room doing her own thing. But like I haven't spoken to her in forever. And she was such a,
Okay.
she, there was good times, like she made my lunch for school every single day
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
10 years or something.
Yeah.
And it's like, you think about that. It's like, it's not your kid. She could have
Yeah.
just given me
Yes.
$5 and
Yeah.
said, go get school lunch.
Go get lunch, yeah. Because I was wondering because my brother, well, I did. I got more of a good relationship with my stepmom in the end, before dad passed away because she became more of not a mother, but she was more caring than she was before. So I was just kind of like I just wanted to compare and say, is that what's normal? But then again, you had a
Yeah.
totally different relationship, so it's kind of
Yeah. But
interesting.
what's
Well,
funny
cool.
is when my dad he called us into his room or something and was like, hey, I'm gonna ask her to marry me. My middle brother was like, no, don't do it. Like literally said that, like instantly, like snap decision, do not do it. And he's like,
Mm,
well, I'm not asking for your permission. I'm just telling you what I'm doing so you know. So it was kind of like out of the gate, they were
Wow.
kind of
it was
butting
yeah, it
heads.
was over.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah. And like, there
Well,
was like
that's
physical altercations between them and stuff. It was pretty
I'm sure
messy.
there's some healing that has to happen around that.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, you're choosing her over me kind of thing. I mean, I'm sure for
Right.
kids, right? Kids have that very emotional level, kind of how they process stuff, right?
Yeah. He never liked, we had this huge wall of photos, and he always would give my dad a really hard time because he's like, there's no photos of mom on there. And he's like, well,
mm,
we don't really have a lot of photos of your mom. He's like, also, I don't know. It's a tricky thing. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not even, this is another thing, now that I'm thinking about it. It's like we moved out of New Jersey. I've never had a connection with anybody on my mom's side of the family. Like I don't
Mm,
know her brothers. I mean, we would go back to see her parents a couple times
Mhm.
after we moved. I remember the one time we went back after my dad and had gotten remarried, and it was just like really uncomfortable, because I think there was a lot of, you know, um, they may have kind of blamed my dad for their daughter dying,
Mm.
so it's kind of, I don't know, that's at the family,
Yeah.
and I think my brother was upset about that as well.
Yeah. I mean, people react differently to trauma. That's what I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
totally.
most of us go into our own silo and dealing with the pain,
Right.
and then you express it through what, drinking or partying or working really hard and, just burying your head or whatever it is. But it's very rare, I think, that people will reach out and connect to other people in that trauma.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And sometimes it happens.
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess my older brother, I think, or my dad has said too. He's like, it's a two-way street. He's like,
Yeah.
they never reached out to us either. It's
Yeah.
not like my dad was just like not telling us about it. He's like, if they would have called and wanted to talk to you, I would have let them talk to you. It's not like I wanted to keep you away from them.
Yes. Yeah.
It was just kind of like we had to go. He was like, I just did the only thing I could think of to move past that, and I was like, I had to get back on my feet. And he did. He gave us a good life.
You got to do what's good for you, not
Yeah.
for others.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you want to be okay with others, but you got to do you first. I mean, and you talked about, it goes both ways. I've had friends, and Sheldon knows I'm the people pleaser for everything. I've had friends who goes, yeah, I haven't heard from you in 2 years or this and that. You never call me. And I get all that, oh my God, I'm so bad. I'm a bad person. Never calling me. Then all of a sudden I've come in my recent years like, screw that. The phone freaking goes both ways. Call my ass if you're thinking about me.
Only
I
took a
mean,
couple of
call me.
decades, right? But that
Which,
realization does
yeah,
happen at some point, right?
right. But in reality, maybe I was going through something. You should have called my ass and said,
Yeah.
"Hey, how you doing?" Instead of me calling you to say, "Hey, I need some help."
Yeah.
So it's like, and so at one point it was more resentment. So I went from that like, God, I feel bad. I'm not calling these people, and then to the resentment going like, "Oh, wait, why the hell didn't you call me? Now it's like, hey, if we talk, we talk. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of like that. It was hard, but it's like, hey, call me if you want to talk.
Yeah. I mean, something that I've found from like really getting into fitness and working out, which I've mentioned before, it's the best thing you can do. I think being active, doing something, whatever it is like, you make time for the things you really want to do. So people are like, I don't have time to work out. It's like, really? You
Yeah.
could find time to work out. Like, I don't have time to do that. You do. You only really do what you really want, and like you get your musts, right? So you got to turn your wants into musts, and you'll get them,
Yep.
because I get up at 5 a.m. every day and start my day to go work out. Like, do I want to get up that early? No, but
No.
it's how it fits into my work schedule. So
Now you gotta it takes a little effort, which it takes time. So I will tell you coming up, okay, come January, I will tell you I hate the first 2, 3 weeks of January because I'll be, as Sheldon knows, I go swim, so I'll swim at the gym over here. I'll get in there, it'll be packed. It's like a freaking,
yeah,
summer pool with a bunch of kids in there.
yeah,
It's like, are you guys gonna swim or sit here and be stupid?
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, oh my God, so you walk in
All
and
the
I'm
New
like,
Year's
okay.
resolutions going on.
Yeah.
yeah.
So what I
Gym's packed
honestly
too.
do, I walk in, I go, okay, I'll give myself 2 weeks. I'll find something else to do. I'll do whatever. And I'll walk in and go, no, no, it's a cesspool. I'm out. Too many people in there. And so then I'll come back in 2, 3 weeks. It's like, sweet, pool's empty.
Yeah.
Fine. Because it's something you got to commit to. And it's like, it's not easy. And like you committing to making a change. It wasn't off the bat, but then it's like, hey, yes, it's nice when a lovely lady's sitting there at the bar and you're talking to her. That helps, but that's a motivating factor. But you said, I'm going to make a change. This is a chance, So that's what I like about your whole story. There is like you're willing to take those. I wrote
Yeah,
that down about, hey, just try something new. Be willing
yeah,
to reach out, and hey, if you fail, you fail. You tried.
yeah.
You don't know until you try.
I have a tattoo on my arm. I got it maybe a year after Chelsea passed away, and
Mhm.
it's based on I think a Ben Franklin quote, but it's persistence conquers all. You know,
Mm.
I think the actual quote is energy and persistence conquer all things.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's the same idea. Like
Awesome.
if at first you don't succeed, try again. Just got
Yeah,
to keep
things
going.
like
And
that.
I did with Sarah. Okay, got rebuffed. It's like 9 months. I was convinced she.
It runs in the family. I always joke that I asked Jacqueline, Sarah's mom, my wife. I asked her out more times and got turned down more times than anybody had ever asked out in my friggin' life by a mile.
Yeah.
Hey, want to hang out? Oh no. Hey, you want to go grab some coffee? Oh no. Hey, you want to do this? No. Hey, you want to do it? No. Yeah, I can't even tell you. I was just like, okay, swing and a miss.
Yeah.
Here we go
Gotta
again.
keep shooting. That's I was convinced she had made up this whole fake boyfriend. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, this boyfriend that's never around. Sure, yeah. He's like, I tell you, if I was your boyfriend, I would be around.
I'd be
here.
around now.
Exactly. I'm not your boyfriend. I'm still coming to see you every time. But definitely worked out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there was a funny time too. We had, seen each other a couple times, but as friends, that's what she says. I thought they were dates, but to be fair, nothing happened. It was just like going out and getting an appetizer or a drink or something. And I don't know. I was like, I forget what she said. She sent me something like, hey, like, I really like getting to know you. Want to stay friends with you. I just don't think the timing's right for us right now. And, I said, okay, I totally get it, But then I thought about it. I remember I was at work. I sat down and I was like, you know what? The hell with that. And I was like, I respect you and I will, obviously honor whatever you want to do. And I get it. But I would be, angry at myself if I didn't say this. Like, I think the timing's perfect. Okay. I was like, I said, I just put it out there. I said, look, I'm head over heels in love with you. And,
wow.
And then there was kind of, whatever little back and forth. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that ship has sailed,
Yeah, I was going to say.
Later that day, I'm sitting at the train station, 22nd Street, waiting for it to go home. On the phone with my brother, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't work out. I guess, her loss, blah, blah, blah. I guess I'll just, whatever. And then, as I'm on the phone with him, I get a text. Or no, I was texting him back and forth, is what it was. Texting him back and forth. And then I get a text and I go thinking it's him responding, and it's Sarah, like, hey, you want to meet up tonight? And I was like, what the hell is this girl? She's crazy. Like, she just kicked me to the curb. Now she's asking me to hang out. I'm not doing this. Okay, sure. Where do you want to meet?
Yeah. Well, I know where your brain went. Yes, I'm going to do this.
I was like, this girl's killing me, But
dude, there are parallels. I was on my phone with my best friend Sean, and he's like, "Hey, have you gotten that check?" I'm like, "No, man, she won't." And bam, she texted me. I'm like, "Dude, gotta go."
Yeah. But I love.
And called me, and I'm like, "Dude, gotta go. Hang up. Bye." It's her. Hey, what's up? Hey, you want to go grab some? Sure. Where? I don't care. Wherever that.
Yeah,
is.
Exactly.
What I love, Mason, is that you were just totally open and vulnerable. Hey, this is where I am. This is where I'm feeling.
Well, you also talked about being afraid to fail, right? You can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. So just put yourself out there and say, this is where I am. So you know where I'm coming from. This is why I've been trying to talk to you. This is where I am. And she's like, wow. So she obviously respected that. Probably took her a little bit, but she's like, okay, you know what? I got to respect that from someone. So that's the one thing I definitely in my notes would talk about is just don't be over aggressive, but be willing to be vulnerable and just say how you are, how you feel, where you are. So just when someone sees that, they're going like, oh, I didn't realize he was at this spot. Okay, well maybe I could make this work if he's at this spot. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like it's something I myself still in this moment, with everything I'm going through at work and stuff. It's like, got to keep that like spirit, that moxie to just like go for it, because there's a million reasons not to do something. You're always going to find a reason not to do it. So like find a reason to do it, because those are way more important, mean more than the ones to not. So,
and real quick, I don't know where we are in the show, but some things before I forget where you're talking, Mason. There were quite a few things I'd love to talk about, but
I think we're in a good place. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Just kind of, this isn't homework, by the way, people, because I don't have homework. Well, I guess it could kind of go into it, but just major points was just go with it. Try something new. Step out, like you're saying with Sarah. You're like, hey, I'm gonna try this, and going from West Coast, I mean East Coast to West Coast, just going. Hey, I'm just going for a week. You never know what's going to happen. You know.
And thinking about
Go ahead.
what brings fear up,
Mm-hmm.
I think it
Yeah.
might be, also like looking at yourself and what are you self-limiting based on fear barriers is what I would call them, right? Look at
Mm-hmm.
what makes you afraid. Maybe think of something that makes you afraid and go for it.
Yeah.
How's that? How's
I
Right.
that
like
for
that.
homework? How's that for
Yeah.
homework
There you
coming
go.
into the new year? You want to, even though the New Year's
Yeah.
resolutions can be kind of lame, right? But still, seriously, right? Look at your life and figure out what is something that you might feel limited on based on a fear that is
Mm-hmm.
coming up inside you. Like you think about something, you're like, ugh, and it makes you afraid. Um,
And
and
like, I'll be
figure out
totally
a time to go
vulnerable right
for
now.
it.
I'll be
What was
totally
it?
vulnerable right now. Like in my life, because you guys are talking about your stuff, is me. My friends are all pushing me to dating, which I want to date, which I do, obviously. But online dating, I'm not going there because I've had so many bad experiences with it. Um, it's just a lot of things. I'm like, I need to know. It's like basically, I'm going to go from A to Z. I don't want to go through that process because I'm like going through the hardness. But it's like, no, I got to be able to be out there and be vulnerable and but be more visual of what's going on. Be more
Mhm.
pay more attention. And so I have to do that right now. I have to step out and say, hey, be willing to fail, be willing to let it go happen, let whatever it's going to do. Maybe take those several months, like Mason was talking about. Then, so that's a huge one. That's what I'm going to do. So I'll tell you, people out there in our listening world, that's what my new goal is going to be.
How
So I'm
about
going to be
how,
open, vulnerable, and be self.
how about
So
how about this day for you? And I'm sorry, we're getting all weird here, off
No,
track.
no,
Maybe we'll
no,
no,
cut
we're
no.
this
good.
out. Maybe we'll cut this out. Uh, you're super, super busy.
Hmm.
I have another friend who's also in our same age range who's single and doesn't want to be. And that dude has 5 million things going constantly. He has and I'm like, dude, you don't even have room for a
Uh,
real
and
relationship
that's and
Yeah.
if
that's
you
where I told
wanted it.
and
And
that's
I'm
what I told
kind of
my
like,
friends.
maybe you need to open some space
So yeah,
so that
so that's
something
what
can
I'm.
fill it.
When swim ended, I said, "Hey, when swim's over, I can't start dating when swim's happening. It's not going to happen. Hey, you want to go out Saturday? Well, I got to meet,
I got
from
2 hours.
8 in the morning. Yeah, I got to meet from 8 in the morning to 6 at night. Yeah, I'll be tired and sweaty after that. But and I said no. Now and I have been starting to do more now that swim's over. Of course, COVID happened last week, but whatever. So I'm starting to do more stuff. There's a group that I'm starting to join to be a part of. So it's like, of course, some people want it now. They want it now. You got to start dating now. I said, just chill. I'm on my
Uh,
pace.
Yes.
Just give me a break. You know. And
You're
so
on God's you're on God's
it's going to
pace,
work fine.
actually.
Exactly. Exactly. And Mason, the other two things I really want to talk about real quick is about being active. Because being active is one, you get out and do stuff. You're helping your body just overall, and you're not sitting at home thinking about things. You might be
Yeah.
thinking about some things here and there, but you're thinking more about activeness and doing that. So I love that. And then last thing is how you respond to stuff, not to what, don't respond to what happened. How do you respond to it? Either positive or negative.
Yes.
It's what's it going to be? So it's like, not like, well, this happened to me, so I guess I just can't do this. No. Um, Something happens, go, okay, get back on the horse and start going again. Okay. Or do something new. Say, okay, this is, like you said with Chelsea, it's a sad, sad, sad situation, but you could have gone way down that rabbit hole. But you said, all of a sudden this happened. I'm going to make a different trajectory for myself. And try to get better at what I'm doing. So,
Yeah.
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 That's one of
So,
those things that's
yeah.
so simple to say and so hard to do and to live, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Is that okay? It's not what happens to me. I'm not a victim of that. I'm going to choose a response. But then that response, especially when it's something tragic like that, has to have there has to be compassion and patience and empathy for yourself in that process, right? Because you
Hmm.
are going to go through pain. You are going to cry. You are going to, you know, feel upset and depressed, right? And you have to allow yourself to go through that process in order to clear it out. And how you do that varies for everybody, right? Like we were saying earlier, some people might need a therapist. Some people might just be able to sit by themselves and cry it all out, for months.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it might take some
Yeah.
amount of time. And putting time limits and how things can
Yeah.
look for you versus somebody else will always be different. So that's the trick with people, right?
Yeah.
Is that everyone's different about what they do. But yeah, the ultimate thing is it's a matter of responding to something versus allowing it to define who you are, like you
Yeah.
said. Don't let
Mhm.
that define who you are,
Yeah.
but also being compassionate to yourself and allowing yourself that process to heal. Because some people are like, it's what's past is past. You know what I mean? And they're moving on, like, going on a date 2 days after, Chelsea passed. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And you're just like,
Yeah.
that's not going to work. You
Yeah.
kind of tried it, right? It didn't work, right? But you also have to fumble your way through that a little bit. We all do.
Right.
And having compassion for yourself as you do that.
And
Sure.
so back on
That's
a note that you made, this show's about Mason, but I'm gonna go on the dating thing real quick. So here's the thing. Like, I'm busy. So talk to your friend too. So like, I'm busy, 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 but it's good for me because I don't have to sit around. That's my activity, doing stuff, just
right.
doing stuff, doing stuff.
Right.
But I need to realize, like, no, I need to slow down so that I can do other stuff. It's that scary point. Am I going to sit at
Yes.
home doing nothing?
Yes.
Will I have a date?
Yes.
Is anyone going to want to go out? Or am I going to
Yes.
sit at home going, freaking out about it?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I have to get in the right mind,
Yes.
as your friend does. Anybody out there right now that's hearing this, I need to go, okay, slow down. And if this comes up, I need to go do that.
Mhm.
Okay. If there's an
Yep.
opportunity, I need to go that and give up other stuff so that I can have that opportunity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And same thing with having dinner, sitting here at home having dinner by myself. It's hard. It's great going to the restaurant and having a drink because there's people. I may not talk to anybody at that bar except the bartender. Ooh, oh no, I know. Yeah, usually they're too young for me, so we'll go there. Um, but that's a safe place for me. So I got to be
Right.
willing to step away from those safe places and go like, hey, I need to make time. I need to have this, and let things go. So yeah, so
Yeah.
that is on the, when you said that, show, it made me wake up a little bit. So
Yeah, I feel like I'm so blessed as someone in my generation that I've never had to do the online dating. Like,
yeah, God
fortunately,
bless.
I just, I met Sarah how I met her. Like, I guess what
Hmm.
someone who she ran into recently says the old fashioned way,
Yep.
at a bar.
Hmm.
That's
Um,
literally what I was thinking. The old
yeah,
fashioned way. You're better than in person.
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
And
But
you had to have some game.
yeah, you
The
got
old fashioned thing. Right?
that's right. I feel like that's something that's everybody now with the technology and everything, and I think COVID stuff happened where everybody's like isolated and that's just what they're used to. But like doing the
Hmm.
same idea, this theme of like trying something new, like going and doing a different class or something, or like being
Yeah.
involved around a different group of people.
Hmm.
Sometimes you do it and it's kind of, that wasn't cool. That was kind of lame or whatever. But like, for instance, an example that came up recently is there's a guy at the gym who's always talking to me. Really nice guy, a little younger than me. He talks to everybody. He's very sociable. He invited me and Sarah to go like hiking. He's this hike group he puts together, and like it literally, we've wanted to go. Sarah and I like to hike. Every single time, it's like she's working or we have something planned. And we were out one day. He texted me. He's like, "Hey, I'm having a Halloween party. Really like it for you guys to come." And like we're like, "Yeah, we'll get dressed up. We never get to do Halloween. It's okay. We'll go." And it was, let's just say, it was a very wholesome Halloween party. Definitely not the type of Halloween party that I was expecting. But it's like we went. You know, Probably won't go back, but like
Hmm.
it was still fun. It was still a good experience, and it gave us an excuse to like actually get dressed up for Halloween, which is something we never really do. Ended up having a good night anyway. But yeah, sometimes you strike out, but
Hmm.
you're never gonna, it's the Wayne Gretzky quote, right? You miss all the shots you don't take. So
Yep.
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 yeah,
So, and I'll tell you, okay, I know we're on a show, but I'm not gonna let him cut this one out because it's kind of cool. So when I'm sitting, me just not talking to anybody, I'm sitting there, over at the local bar or restaurant, and lovely lady sits next to me. We start this conversation. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start talking. Yeah, whatever, we'll start talking. We'll have a great conversation. We're hitting it off. I'm like, this is it. Whoop whoop, here we go, baby. And she looks at her watch. She goes, oh, my boyfriend's here. Got to go. What the frick? How are we having this? Because yes, you can have conversations, but I'm like, that was not a conversation that you had a boyfriend in.
Yeah.
Happened again, another lady. I'm talking to her. Oh, my husband's here. I'm like, people, those are not things we talk about when you have a relationship going on. Because it's like, hey, we're opening up to each other. It's like, okay, I guess I'm that too friendly that people can talk to me. So I am trying, people. Give me a break. Okay, God's had a plan. God's working on me and he's working on her. someday in the near future we will meet.
That's right.
Hey, Mason, it's been great having you, man. Great talking. Love your story. I'm glad you've stepped through a lot of things you've gone through and just, didn't give up and was willing to try everything. And to me, I'm excited that you, and I was going to talk about when you're driving with your dad and you're like, you had to get that frustrated and wait that long. If you would have pulled in the first bar, you would have never met Sarah. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of glad he got angry at his dad because it took him a
Right.
while to make that U-turn. And that's when God said, that's the girl. I'm going to make you get angry. You can't turn around to this moment. So I'm happy that it took time for you to make that U-turn for Sarah.
I had a
and
teacher
for you.
who's like, there's teams of angels going, oh, you finally did it. Yeah, they're up there. The angels are going, no, not that one. No, this one.
We're trying to steer this guy to the right place.
Yeah,
He just
we're
keeps
sitting
going the
here
wrong
trying
way.
to corral the dude.
Yeah.
Oh, there you
So
go.
I'm excited for you guys. So it's awesome.
Well, thanks,
So-
David. It's been great to be here. I mean, always loved Sheldon from the moment I met him. It's just like a open warmness there, and I again feel like I can always talk about anything with you. And
Cool.
Dave,
That's
you're a
awesome.
close friend of his, so it's a easy fit.
Yeah.
Thanks
Definitely.
for coming on, sharing your story. Feelings mutual. Always had a real love for you from the very beginning, and so feel very connected and blessed to have you in our family. Gonna get emotional. So anyway, we're gonna wrap it.
Yeah. So thanks, Mason. Thanks for being here, and everybody out there. Make sure you stick these little things we talked about. Try something new. Be vulnerable. Step out there, and definitely be active. That's a great thing in life. So,
and keep a smile on.
yep, keep that smile on.
Yep.
I'm going to say that.
That's
So.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Have a great week.
All right, take care. Thanks for having me on.